Good afternoon and happy Monday. This is John Quintero. I'm the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, and welcome to Stop the Scam. With me, as always, is my co-host, Dispatch Kate. Kate, how you doing this wonderful Monday afternoon?
I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain. Even if I did, who the hell would listen?
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. One of the truths of life, folks. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to try to do what we were going to do last week, which was talk about the freight guard process and why it's so important to a lot of carriers out there. So hopefully brokers and carriers are listening and paying attention to that as we go through it. Summarize some of the things that we talked about last week with the owner of Carrier 411, Darren Brewer, who was on the show. So if you missed that, that is episode 7. Please go back and check that out because he dropped a few Easter eggs on us, and it was kind of interesting hearing what he had to say. And I think I can speak for Kate on this when I say that we have a newfound respect for Carrier 411. I'm not saying we like it. I'm not saying carriers have to like it, but I can say I respect what they're trying to do. And that gives me a little bit of hope for what's happening for their platform. So I want to go ahead and start off with a little bit of summary from that show, just so people can see what's going on. They can go ahead and comment on it or whatever. But we got 2 very big pieces of information from Darren during that. And the first one is that Carrier 411 is going to launch an onboarding portal soon. Now, this is the same type of thing as Highway or RMIS or what DAT does with their onboarding platform. It's the same type of thing. And when that is in play, then clearly they're going to be drawing all the data from their own platform. That's going to be really interesting to say the least, especially if their platform has bad information in there. But knowing this does give, for the first time, carriers a reason to pay attention as to what's happening on Carrier 411. And then Darren also went a step further to tell us that a Carrier 411 like platform is coming out that is going to be carrier based later this year. Basically, what that means is that carriers, it's your turn. Now you can file reports against brokers. They're not sure what they're calling the site yet. They're not sure what they're calling the reports yet. We know the reports against carriers are called freight guards. I don't know if they're going to say they're going to call them freight guards against brokers or who knows. But carriers are now going to be able to file reports against the brokers under this platform. Another thing that this Carrier 411 like platform for carriers is going to do is it's going to basically I just got an email and completely disrupted my flow. Damn live shows. It's going to give a carrier access to what a broker sees on that carrier's profile. So if you have a freight guard out there, you will see it, and you can respond to it in real time. So you put up a response. We apologize for this. We acknowledge this issue. We're doing something about it. Then a week later, you did something about it, and you want to update that. Well, before you couldn't update that stuff. You will be able to update it in this upcoming version. So there will no longer be that 72-hour period of where you have the opportunity to respond, but you only get one shot at it, and you're made or broken on that one shot. That's going away. So that's a good thing. The question is going to be is how much of the reports that are going to go into this new platform that carriers are going to file against brokers, how heavy that's going to be, because we all know that there's going to be some revenge reports going out. Folks, I can't reiterate enough. Professionalism is important in this business. Yeah, and sometimes brokers forget that. And when they forget that and they file a freight guard against you, that's why you have folks like Kate and me to try to help defend you when those situations come up. But um, doing the reverse, using emotion to file a freight guard on a broker is going to have the same effect that broker filing a freight guard against the carrier will. So count on that to cause problems as we move forward. And that's something that Darren mentioned was an issue they were working out. So we did ask Darren if he would come back once that platform launches to provide for us a demo. He is undecided on that, but we will be talking to him as we get closer to when that launches. So if you have questions about what happened in the last show or how Carrier 411 works, and we don't address it in this show, feel free to ask questions, and we'll be happy to jump in and answer those questions as we go. Or if you're listening to the show after the fact, email us, and we'll be happy to help you in any way we can. And if we don't know the answer, I'll go ahead and I'll forward your questions over to Darren, and I'll you an answer. How's that sound? All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and run through a couple of updates. Kat, you got any updates on MABE?
No, but something I want to do is I've I've been wanting to report it to the FMCSA for a while now, but I don't have the ability to compile every single individual's paperwork and send it off. I mean, if it were just a few of them, it'd be a different story, but we're talking 20 plus people, so I can't, and probably more. I would assume there's more. These are just the ones that I personally come in contact with. So what I would like to do is um, shoot an email to the FMCSA, the specific division that deals with this, and copy those who have been affected by MABE in my email. That way I can introduce the situation to FMCSA, and those people can maybe respond with their documents individually in that thread directly to FMCSA.
Do you have the email address for the FMCSA handy? I'll go ahead and throw it up
Yes.
on a banner.
I don't want to misspeak. Hang on a second.
The joys of doing a live show, ladies and gentlemen. Kate and I work all day long, so when we jump into the show, we're literally going right from being on the phones, doing our work, dispatching or whatever it is we're doing, and our prep time is usually fairly low.
Yeah.
So trust me, last week it was a surprise when we got a call from Carrier 411 saying, "Hey, can we be on your show?"
Oh, I think I found it. It is
Okay, what you got?
T. T as in Tom, L as in Larry, T as in Tom, F as in Frank, at dot.gov. Just one T in the
Okay,
beginning. TLTF.
that work?
Yep. Yep, that's it.
Okay. So if you have a complaint you need to file against a carrier, if you're an owner operator, you're getting screwed over by your carrier, this is where you need to go. This is the email address you need to have. These are the guys who can hold that carrier to account. And we're coming across more and more, let's call them domestic scammers. It's insane how much we're encountering this. And by domestic scammers, I would refer to that as carriers bringing on owner operators or bad dispatch services. We are encountering this stuff all the time. Just today, I received a call from a freight broker who was having an issue. Their cargo got stolen. The carrier they booked admitted to double brokering the load, and whoever they gave the load to took off with it. they have no idea where the cargo is. So that's always fun. You gotta, folks, you really have to pay attention to what you're doing. If you are a carrier, okay, and I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt for just 1 second. All right. And even though it's probably wrong, if you can't handle a load yourself for whatever reason, you're required by law to give that back to the broker. You have to. You have no choice. You can't just give it to your buddy. Hey, man, can you cover for me? It doesn't work that way, because then you are guilty of illegal brokerage, and then you wind up on one of today's lists of sins that get you a freight guard. It's not worth it, guys. It's not worth it. Just admit defeat and give it back to the broker. Yeah, especially if you're a 1 or 2 truck operation, guys. Every broker knows that crap happens in this business. No carrier is infallible. I have really good carriers that I work with, and I can tell you I've had to cancel loads on brokers with each and every single one of those carriers for one reason or another. There's just no way around it. If you have that buddy who can help, the way to handle that is you call the broker, say, hey, look, I can't handle this, but let me offer you a solution. Call this guy. He can do it. He's nearby. I know him. I can vouch for him. See if you can work with him. That goes a long way to maintaining your credibility as a carrier to a broker. Because you're not just bringing the broker the problem, but you're bringing him a solution. Okay, so think of it that way, please, folks. To go and repost the load yourself, try to find a carrier. Going out on Facebook. Jesus Christ, never book a load off Facebook, guys. And I know it's ironic because we're live on Facebook, but never book a load on Facebook. It never goes well. But you got to pay attention to what's going on out there. There's a legitimate way to do business. You need to stay within the lane. If you go outside of the lane, that's where the scammers are, and that's where they're going to take you for every dime you've got. It's just crazy. So again, this broker is now contacting the authorities to try to find the load. He is reporting the carrier to DOT. So DOT is likely to issue a $10,000 fine to that carrier, as well as revoke their authority. That's the punishment you get when you illegally broker loads. But we're coming across issues like that all the time. What was that?
Someone asked, if you give a load back to a broker because you can't do it for whatever reason, can they freight guard you for that? You want to go over that?
Sure. I've seen it happen before, but it depends on the circumstances under how it happens. Okay. But the short answer is yes. And only because a broker can issue a freight guard for pretty much anything they want. But there has to be some kind of value behind it in the description of the freight guard in order for Carrier 411 to allow it to post. That's one of the fun things we learned from Darren last week. So as long as the comments support the allegation, then yeah, it can go forward. Now, specifically to the situation that this guy's talking about, if you are returning a load at the last minute of the day, you've had the load all day, you've known for hours that you may not be able to make it, and you bail on the last second, there's a high possibility that you can be hit with a freight card. If you are constantly communicating with the broker, you book the load, then immediately after you book the load, you realize there's a problem. Say, hey, broker, here's what's going on. This is what's happening. What do you think? Work with the broker. Make the broker part of the decision-making process. Let the broker come to the conclusion that, hey, perhaps I need to find another carrier. Then they won't freight guard you. And if they do freight guard you under those circumstances, please call me. Let me know, and we'll see if we can't get that fixed for you. But in most cases, no, you won't get a freight guard returning a load. But it can happen. It all depends on how badly you end up messing up the broker. If you give him plenty of time to recover, then no, you're not going to have an issue. However, be mindful of the reason that you cancel a load. Okay. If you cancel a load because you have a maintenance issue, I guarantee you will have no problems whatsoever if you text the broker a picture of the idiot lights on your dashboard showing you got a problem. I promise you, if the problem is weather, a screenshot off of your forward looking camera showing the nastiest snowstorm in the world in front of you is going to make you late. That helps to prove things. Same thing about traffic and all that good stuff. Guys, a picture says 1,000 words. And when you send a picture to a broker, say, this is my situation, this is what I'm staring at, it will help protect you. It will greatly minimize the risk of getting a freight guard if a load has to be canceled. At least that's my take on it. What's your experience on that, Kate?
I agree. I mean, I've had to cancel plenty of loads, and my boyfriend's pulling in his big old truck, and it's about to get loud. So I can't go anywhere right now. It's just going to be loud for a second. But I mean, I agree. I've had to cancel plenty of loads. Thankfully, I haven't had anybody get a freight guard because of that in my presence yet. So hopefully it stays that way. But yeah, if you hold on to something for hours and hours and hours, and then it's the end of the day and you're like, oh shit, I can't pick this up, then yeah, they're going to be pissed.
Yeah, you got to figure out ways to make it up to them. You really do. Again, the more you can make it a joint decision to recover the load, the better off you're going to be.
I've had
That's
somebody
really
abandon a truck and a load, and I've worked with the broker to get it recovered. He had every right to put a freight guard on that carrier for that, but he didn't because I helped him, or I did my best to help. So situations like that are helpful too.
I hate how a lot of dispatchers these days get a bad rap. I will be the first to admit that there are dispatch services out there that are total crap. There are a lot of them that are total crap. Okay, but Kate and I both run dispatch services. But a good dispatcher is responsible for protecting their carrier. And as long as you are communicating with the broker, you can usually talk your way out of any kind of issue that may come up. Like Kate, I have in my 3 years dispatching, I have never ever had a carrier that got a freight guard. Never once. And we've canceled plenty of loads. We've had accidents. We've had cargo damage. We've had claims. We've had all sorts of issues pop up. We've never once gotten a freight guard. And that's because of regular communication. I was late to show. Can you recap what the carrier for one guy in the new version for carriers? No, you did not get that wrong. There is a new version of Carrier 411 that is going to come out later this year, specifically for carriers. And again, what that does is going to allow carriers to do what brokers get to do now, and that is you can file freight guards or whatever they're going to call them against brokers who behave improperly. Now, of course, it needs to be somewhat evidence based, just like what brokers are supposed to provide to Carrier 411 when they post. There has to be some piece of evidence listed within the comments in order for it to process. The only concern that is going on at Carrier 411 is to deal with all of the revenge posts, because God knows there's going to be a billion of them. And we're going to have a fun time trying to sort that out. But the other key thing about that platform is a carrier can look at their own profile and see what they have in their profile. You'll see what the brokers are going to see when they look for you. You'll see if you have a freight guard. You see what that freight guard says. You can comment on that freight guard at any time as you go and you improve whatever it was that you were accused of. You fired your dispatcher, you hired a new dispatcher, you improved your procedures, whatever. As you'd have updates, post those updates as new comments on that freight guard. And hopefully that will demonstrate to brokers who see it that you're actually doing something about it. Remember, the whole purpose of the freight guard program, there are two. One, to inform other brokers of a history, and two, to affect a change in a carrier's behavior. The reverse will be true with this new platform. Okay. Again, making sure we know the history of a broker and affect a change in the broker's behavior under the new platform. So time is coming on that. Oh yeah, I guarantee there will be a subscription fee. What it's going to be, I don't know. However, remember, there's actually two new modules coming out. One is going to be an onboard module. Of course, that's probably going to be free. You know, carriers don't pay for highway, carriers don't pay for RMIS. So that module, whatever brokers sign on with Carrier 411 for their onboarding, that portion will be free. But to use the new service where carriers can file freight guards against brokers, yes, that will be a subscription fee. I would guarantee it. How steep it is, who knows? Who knows? But being a dispatcher myself, I don't think I'm going to get access. I don't think they're going to let dispatchers get access to either system. I think they're going to require carriers to have the owners take care of all that stuff themselves, which frankly I'm okay with. That doesn't bother me.
I had another issue come up today, and I'm
What you got?
interested to hear your opinion or your stance on it. So I got a phone call, and somebody said that they were trying to onboard with Axel, who now
Mhm.
uses
Highway.
Highway for onboarding.
Uh-huh.
And so we know that certain companies want access to your ELD.
Mhm.
Well, in most cases, you can just complete the onboarding without giving your ELD credentials. But apparently now, as of this week, Axel is requiring that they have everybody's ELD credentials, and they won't allow them to move forward with them without it.
I've spoken with Highway about this. I want to say it was like 3 months ago. Um, yes, part of the Highway module, and most brokers who subscribe to Highway are requiring connection to your ELD in order to complete the setup. Um, and that connection is using the admin password, not a driver's user password. So it's important to know which account you're trying to link in Highway in order for that to process properly. Um, According to Highway, they do not draw your log information. They do not draw any kind of information in terms of access. They do not disclose your credentials. The only thing it allows you to do is to track via ELD. That is what the purpose of that is. It's like Project 44. Um, I know there are a lot of people that are skittish about giving out their information with regard to that, and rightfully so. Most of my carriers were skittish about it too. I had a couple who finally agreed and tested, and we've seen, frankly, a lot of success through it. And with the carriers who did put their ELD information up into Highway, Highway setups for me now run as quick as MCP does. Uh, it's very easy, very secure, and I haven't had any problems. Is there a potential? Of course, but there's a potential with any kind of system that requires a password. But for the most part, I would say Highway is safe when it comes to putting your credentials into it for the ELD tracking portion. So
I
I
think
do recommend carriers move forward with that.
I think this guy in particular said that he had talked to someone, whether it was a highway employee or with Axel, about them having access to their ELD. And they said that they use that information for other purposes as well, like where currently are the most trucks, or things like that, like a data analysis thing. So that was a little.
Hey, I find that fairly benign. Um, Basically, what they're doing is they're trying to do the same thing that DAT or truck stop would do, but they're using load postings to identify potential volume of trucks in a region versus ELD trackers.
Mhm.
So, they, do I give a damn whether or not a broker knows that I have two trucks in a specific region? Hell no. Do any of my carriers? I don't believe so. I don't think it's detrimental. I do understand anyone's hesitation in doing it. Believe you me, I do get it. Privacy is important, but transparency is also important in this industry, and ELDs are designed to help track. And with that being the case, a lot of these services exist that require your ELD to be active in order to track. So sorry, guys, with the old rigs who don't have the computer ports to tie in an ELD with. That's going to cause you headaches down the road.
That's interesting. I didn't think about it like that. We actually had somebody that wanted to lease on that had a 2003 or 4 F-250. So I have not thought about that. That's interesting.
I don't remember what the cutoff is. I want to say it was 98, but I'm not certain. There are certain trucks that are exempt from ELD rules only because they're too old. The computers can't handle it. The computers can't interface with the ELD system. Um, Otherwise, you're required to have it.
Mhm.
And I don't care if you're a box truck. I don't care if you're a hot shot, whatever. If you are a commercial driver, you have to have an ELD unless, and as I understand that this is different from state to state, unless you're under 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. So most of the box trucks and hot shots I work with are 26,000 pound gross vehicle weight. So yes, they all have it.
Yes.
I
Yep.
also have come across a couple of situations. We're kind of talking enforcement now. Uh, I've come across a couple of situations in the last couple of weeks where guys have gotten pulled over for skipping way stations.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know how to explain this to the box truck and hotshot community. You're a commercial driver. Just go through the damn way station. If they don't need you in there, they're going to wave you off. But go through the way station. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't really slow you down. Just do it. It's better than paying the $300 fine for skipping in a state that requires you to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I made that decision long ago back when I was driving to just go through them, and my life has been simple as a result. One of my drivers failed to go through it and ate a $300 fine, and that was 5 years ago. So I'm assuming the fine is still the same, but it's one of those you're going to have a hard time contesting. Um, you just can't get away from that one. So let's go ahead and gravitate back towards the carrier 411 stuff and freight guards. The whole purpose of last week's show was supposed to be what are freight guards, what can you get a freight guard for, and how you can prevent yourself from getting it. So let's go ahead and look at the sins that you can commit that could cause you to get a freight guard. So here is the official list off of the Carrier 411 website. And I've kind of sequenced it in severity. Most severe being unauthorized rebrokering, and that is your double brokering, illegal brokerage, whatever. We've all talked about double brokering before. Everyone knows what that is. Um, If you're one of those guys who says, "Oh man, my truck's broke down. I got a buddy up the street who can cover for me." Dude, that's illegal brokerage. That first one, that top crime right there, unauthorized rebrokering of shipment, is a kiss of death. You get a freight guard for that, you can kiss your business goodbye. It is very difficult to fight. It is if you are in a situation where you didn't double broker it, it's actually an owner operator working for you. You need to have all your documentation square and ready to roll in order to convince the broker to not throw this accusation at you. And I can help you with that if you need it. Holding cargo hostage. I don't know how many times I see carriers trying to hold cargo hostage in an attempt to get a broker to do something specific. Guys, you have a legal obligation. You cannot hold a cargo hostage unless you have no reasonable expectation of being paid. The broker needs to tell you, I'm not freaking paying you for this load. Then you can hold the load hostage. If you're dealing with a double brokered load, all we need to do is determine who the real broker is. Once we determine who the real broker is, you keep on rolling. Okay. You want to hold something to try to keep a dialogue going with a broker, hold the POD. Because the broker needs the POD in order for them to get paid by their customers. Sit on the POD, deliver the cargo, but sit on the POD if you really want to try to do something like that. And even then, that's not exactly smart. You can always negotiate with brokers throughout the entire process. Okay. And even though renegotiating the load or in transit modification is one of the sins on this list, it be reasonable about it. You can't just sit there and say, okay, now that I got this cargo, you're going to pay me an extra $1,000. That's extortion. Okay. No, you can't do that crap. Be reasonable. Say you got a day of layover. Broker said they're going to pay you a day layover, but you haven't gotten the rate confirmation yet. Okay. You can sit on the BOL for a little bit, to say, hey, we still need that updated rate con. Then I'll send you the BOL. That gets them off their butt to go ahead and send that. But even then, you got to be very careful about how you do it. Don't be confrontational. Back soliciting. Oh, not only is this something that you can't do? I mean, it's in the contract. It's in every broker carrier contract that I've ever seen. You cannot talk to a shipper or a receiver about money. Now, we've run into situations, Kate and I, in the last couple of weeks where a driver needed to prove the cargo that he was picking up with the shipper. So the only information the driver had was the information from the rate confirmation. So the driver brought up his rate confirmation on the phone. Okay. Well, it just so happened that the shipper saw how much the carrier was getting paid for the load. Carrier didn't say anything. The shipper didn't say anything to the carrier, but the shipper did turn around and call the broker and said, what the hell? And I don't know the whole story, but we can assume that the shipper paid a hell of a lot more than what the carrier was actually getting. So don't back solicit. Don't talk money. Okay. That carrier who showed their rate confirmation could have been accused of back solicitation. And it took a lot of work among three different parties, myself, Kate, and another individual, to try to hold that from becoming a freight guard. Fraudulent activity. This is a catch-all, but it's the truth. You're committing fraud of any kind. Oh, they're going to slap you with a freight guard. Theft or unjust loss of freight, just about as bad as holding a load hostage. In fact, if you hold a load hostage, it is considered cargo theft. But if you're, hauling, cases of candy, and you take a case off the top for yourself, that's the one that you're going to get hit with. In transit agreement modification, again, this is when you have gross changes where you're extorting the broker. And we've seen the reverse go around too. So don't get me wrong. Repeated pickup or delivery service failures. If you're constantly having service failures, then I can see a freight guard popping up. Um, Fairly benign. You need a good defense in your comments, but a company can live with an accusation like this on their record. Persistent canceling, same deal. If you've got documentation that shows why you canceled, then you're usually going to be okay and may even be able to avoid the freight guard. Sometimes, sometimes not. No call, no show. Guys, this is almost a guaranteed freight guard. You cannot assume because you're being tracked that a broker knows you're not going to make it. Communicate, 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 communicate. In fact, I would say that for every single one of these accusations that are on this list, you have to communicate. And the more you communicate, the easier it's going to be to avoid getting freight guards on these kinds of things. And that's the good thing about a good dispatcher. A good dispatcher is a good communicator. We'll talk to a broker on a regular basis. We'll keep a broker informed of what's going on. And when hiccups happen, hiccups don't mean the load's going away, you know? But keeping them informed at least tells them you're being responsible about how you're handling things and you're giving them a chance. You're giving the broker a chance to do something about it. Canceling after accepting the load, that's pretty much the same as no call, no show, in my personal opinion. But canceling after accepting can get to be a gray area. I see a lot of these and get a lot of these reversed, especially if the uh, carrier has not signed a rate confirmation. That rate confirmation is accepting the load. However, there are a lot of brokers out there who say if you are verbally saying you'll take the load, or you say it in an email, that considers locking you in. It's considered a verbal contract at that point. There is some gray area there. Of course, that's never been tested in a court of law. So if anyone feels like throwing around a frivolous lawsuit over that, have at it. Let's see what happens. But yeah, communicate, communicate, communicate. Unresolved claim issues. I've dealt with this a lot. Um, Claims are a real tricky thing. And if you ever get a claim or a broker is saying that there's a possible claim, your very first call as a carrier is to your insurance company. Get their advice. Okay. You need to know what your legal options are. Your insurance company is going to determine um, liability. And if you are liable, they'll pay the claim. If you're not liable, they won't. Now, that does not mean that you didn't do something stupid. If you did something stupid, your insurance company is not going to pay for it because you did something stupid. You're still on the hook for the claim. There are ways to resolve these things. You can contact somebody like me or another carrier advocating service, and we can help negotiate with the broker a settlement that can be advantageous to both parties. Unethical or deceptive business practices, I think I see that on every single freight guard I have ever worked. Um, Originally, that was designed for bait and switch type situations, but pretty much if there's anything that goes sideways, uh, drawing a freight guard, I see unethical or deceptive business practices against it. Whew. I think I've just covered my entire freight guard standalone video in half the time doing this. Kate, you got anything you want to add?
Yes, to the back solicitation. I personally have been accused of back solicitation. I don't know how many times. And every single time, it's because I'm calling the shipper to confirm, hey, the situation that we're in is starting to seem a little sketchy. Just want to confirm that this broker is rightfully in possession of this load. And once the broker finds out that I called the shipper, they call me, email me, and oh my God, you're back soliciting and, whatever. So That's
Sorry.
happened to me quite a lot.
And I've seen it. I've had to defend carriers from that before, and I can tell you right now, brokers are going to verify you every which way from Tuesday. They're going to pull your second grade test scores, So I mean, if they have the right to verify you to that level, you have the right to verify them. Again, avoid the topic of money, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with asking a shipper, hey, who is the broker of record for this load? If they don't know, they don't know. That's fine. Um, you could always also ask the receiver, and of course, the paperwork will give it away too when you get a BOL. In most cases,
Yeah,
but
unless they left it blank, which is really a pain in the butt.
uh, I tell you, we need to do a show on how to properly fill out a BOL at some point. There are rules. There is actually law about how to fill out a BOL. And it's not enforced, which is why there are so many different variants that exist out there today. Uh, but as long as the key elements are there, then everyone accepts it for what it is, and that's just as an industry standard. Forget the law for a second there. That's just an industry standard. It is also not back solicitation, by the way, to invoke your rights under the broker transparency law. If you go to a broker, you feel like there's something shady going on, and you feel that you have the need to invoke your 49 CFR 371.3 rights, then you can do that. And I'll go ahead and I'll slow that down for you all. That's 49 CFR, Code of Federal Regulations, Section 371, Paragraph 3, subparagraph C, or Charlie. That is the statement that requires brokers to provide that information to any party of the broker transaction. So keep that in mind if you need it, but you cannot. You should not be given a freight guard for requesting that information. It's not back solicitation. It's nothing fraudulent. You have the legal right to request that. Now, they may put you on a do not use list. That's fine. I'll be honest, I wouldn't request invoking that law unless I didn't plan on using that broker again anyway. But that's just me. But yeah, you have the right. And most carriers don't even realize they have that right, which is a scary thing. What also
Yeah.
bothers me is brokers don't believe that carriers have that right. Okay.
Yeah.
And you got anything else on this list, Kate?
No, I think that's it. Just really the back solicitation thing is what comes to mind for me because I hear it all the time when I call to verify.
It's crazy. It really is. We know that this entire industry is wrought with fraud, and that's why we do these shows. We also know the scammers are watching these shows. We also know the scammers are on our social media. So as we piece apart different fraud operations, they know we're on to them, and that's fine. They
And they'll
then have to
evolve.
get creative and move on to something else. They evolve, right? And then we have to evolve with them. We've done a fairly good job to this point. We still need FMCSA to step in and do things, but they can't. The law does not allow them to step in and do what they really need to do, like stop issuing out authorities. But it is what it is. We're going to have to deal with this as a community. And folks, it's not about brokers versus carriers. We've got to stop looking at the world that way. We really do. Um, if there's going to be an us versus them mentality, it's got to be against the scammers. You got to protect yourselves. You got to protect yourselves. I have a lot of material on my website and in my YouTube channel. Uh, on how to protect yourself from different types of scams. Please check that stuff out. They should be useful for you all. And we are also evolving in trying to deal with domestic guys like the bad dispatchers and the bad carriers that are out there, like Mabe. Um, there are plenty out there. And as people bring that to us, we will try to bring that to you so that everyone else knows what's going on. These guys are just getting away with murder. And all we can do is document, 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 document.
Hmm.
Eventually, the government will finally do something. And I truly believe that they are doing something. It's just the problem is so big, they don't know where to start. Um, I definitely have my set of opinions on where to start, but
Yeah,
they need to get started somewhere.
increasing who, security of who they let in. I mean, it's pretty could be pretty simple,
The
at
only
least to cut
problem
out a
is,
big
is
chunk.
the only problem with that is the law um, ties their hands on that. And for those who don't know, we're speaking about the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. Motor Carrier Act of 1980 does specifically state that any entity who's willing and able to operate as a carrier can get a carrier authority. And that means if you check all the blocks meeting all the requirements, then you get the authority. Um,
No barriers to entry, no barrier.
no
Doesn't matter where you live.
exactly.
Doesn't matter if you live in the country. If you have ever stepped on U.S. soil, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so that is why these scammers are able to get in and do what they do. And it's not just carriers, that the same applies to brokers as well. If you meet the requirements for the authority, boom, you got the authority. End of story.
And the bad
Um,
part, what gets me is there's no way for us, we can't legally hold anyone responsible that's not in the country. If they're not here, they don't have to necessarily abide by our laws. We can't do anything about somebody that's overseas. So the fact that it's law for them to be able to operate here legally is just asinine.
so the only thing you can do to get a law changed is to vote. you know, make sure your voice is heard, contact your congressperson, make sure that you explain to them professionally, properly, using proper English, um, what the situation is. You just sit there and say the trucking industry sucks. They're not going to do a damn thing. If you sit there and say, with relation to this particular law, we believe this is causing a problem in the industry. This is the problem we see. This is how we think it can be fixed. Now you've given your congressman or congresswoman something to work with, gives them a target to go after. And the more letters they receive of that type, the higher up it winds up on their priority list. So, by all means, if you don't like the law, and that's any law, get involved in politics, vote, and contact your representatives to get things done. Not saying it's a perfect system, but that is the system we have.
I do agree. Just don't come ranting and raving to me because I'm not a political person.
Um, yeah, and that leads me to back to Carrier 411 a little bit. And one of the things that we learned from Darren was that you cannot sue Carrier 411. They enjoy a protection that's known as Section 230, and that is the law that protects
The
certain entities like
Communications
social
Decency
media.
Act.
Yes, thank you. Um, it protects those entities from being sued for the content that's on their platforms. So if you are looking to sue Carrier 411 because you're not happy that you got a freight guard, you're barking up the wrong tree. Um, Darren made it very clear that he is more than willing to spend the money necessary to get the case thrown out, which means you are going to waste your money hiring the attorney in the first place. So don't even bother. Not against Carrier 411. Now, if you've got a defamation suit against a broker, that's one thing. Okay. But that's the content that's in Carrier 411, not Carrier 411 itself. So don't go after the platform. And, you know, hate the game, don't hate the player, I guess. Or hate the player, don't hate the game. I don't know. How does that go? Anyway, it's
Something like that.
you can't go after Carrier 411 because you have a freight guard. You can't go after Carrier 411 because it doesn't allow carriers to say something. They're a private entity. They have the right to control their website the way they do. The good news is revenge is at hand. When the carrier version comes up, you better believe everyone and their brother who's got a grudge against a broker is going to sit there and file a claim about that grudge. Guys, if we can't let this turn into a grudge fest, we really can't, because all it's going to do is just break us down even further. So be very careful when this opens up. You got a legitimate gripe, that's one thing. If you're just making noise to make noise, you're just adding to the problem. Okay, I think we have pretty much hit on Carrier 411 pretty hard today. Overall, though, knowing some of the inner workings of Carrier 411 that Darren did share with us last week, I have more faith in what Carrier 411 is doing, knowing that they are screening these freight guards before they go out to the carriers to make sure that there's some legitimacy involved before they go out. Now, remember, they don't adjudicate, they do not collect evidence. There just has to be something in the comments to justify the accusation. As long as there's something in the comments to justify the accusation, then it moves forward.
Yeah, like one thing he said was if somebody just goes in there and clicks every single, accusation or whatever, then it just gets thrown out, because that's obviously, he said, in their opinion, that's obviously just somebody that's angry. So something like that doesn't go through.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's only a very small team that screens these things. And I think he said that there's 150 a day that he gets freight guard reports. And he's got a team, I think, of 3 or 4 who review these. So, but they are reviewed. And that gives me a little hope for control from Carrier 411 in trying to suss these out and make sure what's going out on their website is halfway decent. Now, if you do have bad information on Carrier 411, you need to understand that that information is drawn from other sources, such as Safer. So if your address or your status or something is wrong, first point of contact is to FMCSA. Update your MCS 150, update the information in Safer. That will usually correct the information that's sitting in Carrier 411 about your company. Because I do get reports of that from time to time where, hey, they've got something wrong about my company. A fundamental thing like an address or an email or something is wrong, and I can't call them to fix it. Well, no wonder you can't call them to fix it. They screen every phone call, and if you're a carrier, they block you. Oh, by the way, folks, if you repeatedly call them after they've blocked you, they have a log of how many times you've attempted to call. So they know.
That's pretty funny.
Again, hate saying revenge is at hand, but revenge is at hand. Carriers are going to get their due and have a similar system very soon. Just be responsible about it, please. We don't need both sides going off the deep end, freight guarding each other left and right. Okay, so when it comes to us dispatch services, though, yeah, we're not going to see any of that stuff. So if you need our help in trying to resolve these issues, freight guards, etc., you got to send your freight guard to us. Here's the email addresses. Just let us know what the issue is. Whenever anyone approaches me about a freight guard matter, I usually ask for a copy of the POD as well as the rate confirmation for the load that is of question. And then I start digging into the particulars. Do I need a copy of the rate agreement, the contract between the broker and the carrier, contract between the carrier and the owner operator, whatever. I'll go through and identify what I need based on what the allegations are. But if you get into a jam with a freight guard that you think you've unjustly gotten, or you have an old freight guard that's sitting out there that you fixed a long time ago that you'd like to see removed because it's still causing you problems, hit us up. We can help you with that. All right, so we're winding down to the end of the hour here. So we're going to go ahead and wind up for the week. We're hoping next week to bring on a couple of guests, make this a little more lively. We don't have our topic lined out yet. Typically, we grab our topics based on what's happening in the industry at that time. There are some new things that are developing. I thought I saw a news story the other day about DOT proposing to do away with MC numbers. I'm trying to
Oh, that's
learn more about
interesting.
that. Oh yeah, tell me about it. It's all going to be just DOT numbers. So let's see how that plays out. Hopefully we'll get some more information on that really soon. I don't have any feedback on what happened at Matt's this weekend, so I'm very interested to hear what happened there. So I'm sure if you follow any of the other major video blogs out there like Mother Trucker or the Logistics Lounge, I'm sure you're going to see other stuff out there. We recommend the Logistics Lounge. Those guys are really good at keeping up with current events. They typically run Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday afternoon around the same time that we air on Mondays. So feel free to check them out. They've usually got good information in there. Other than that, you got any final thoughts there, Kate?
Not really. I think I got everything out.
Yeah, I kind of find doing this show a bit cathartic. Um, it definitely helps me kind of wind down after all the different scammers and stuff I deal with all week long.
Yeah.
It helps to talk about it. It helps to get the information out there, and we're hoping that by doing this and by providing the education that we provide, that we can help other carriers avoid these situations, help brokers avoid these situations, help shippers avoid these situations. You got to know what you're doing. You got to know what you're getting into. In the meantime, we'll be back again on Monday next week, 5 p.m. Please feel free to check us out if you are catching this as a recording from one of our social media sites. If you got any questions, you can always email us at dbbh.hotline@vigilanttransport.com, or you can reach Kate at kprice@rockdovefs.com. Feel free to hit us up. We're happy to help in any way that we can. Until then, stay safe out there. Weather's going to be kind of squirrely, I believe. I think they're talking about another blizzard up in the northern tier. So
Hmm.
watch yourselves out there, and we'll catch you next week. Take care, y'all.
Bye, John.